Yeah.
Clock that. Clock that.
Yeah.
Long time coming. This conversation between you and I.
I'm like excited, but like low-key nervous.
I am. Listen, we were saying just now that 30 minutes or even 45 minutes is simply not enough, but we will get through what we need to get through. Thank you for coming. To get us rolling, there are questions that I'm going to ask you, and I need you to attach either a word or a memory to them. It's semi quick fire.
Okay.
It's paste fire. We have paste fire in this household, yeah? So, yes, we ready?
Yeah.
Cool. First word, high fashion.
Paris.
Ibiza.
Me.
Backless red dress.
Yeah, as it should be done.
As it should be done. You had us on a chokehold with that one. Groovers Fund.
It's Groove Fund. Freedom.
And Aura Architect.
Yeah, freedom. Again, freedom. Yeah.
My girl?
Yeah.
You have been on my radar for the longest time. And what really got me leaning into you was TikTok. For many years, I've been following you on Instagram, and we were talking about your brand personality. Very much the girl who doesn't say anything but does everything. And your poignant voice on TikTok, with you being the aura kid, with you speaking about finance and artistry and just you being a person living in the world. We will get into that. But on the show, we take seriously the motto, the personal is professional, right? Leaning on the feminist tenet, the personal is political. Yeah? You are a visual artist. You are a lover of beautiful things, as you so put it.
Yes.
When did you realize that this is a calling for me? I call this the burning bush experience, leaning onto the Christocentric idea of the burning bush, Moses, this moment of, oh, hectic, this is who I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
When was that?
I was in Houghton. I remember this very vividly. It was 2016, and I was working at a company, in a healthcare company, and I was laying in my bed, and they were paying me so well. I had bought an Audi, and I was living in Houghton, and it was like a multi-story apartment, and I was in my bed, and I was looking up, and I was like, is this it? Like, if I die right now, am I going to be satisfied with how I've lived? You know?
But where did this dissatisfaction emanate from?
I was just reading a lot of books, watching a lot of content. You know, I love self-help books. And they kept re-emphasizing, you know, if you're 80 years old, will you have regret or would you have gratitude with the life that you lived?
Sure.
And I was maybe 22, I don't know, early 20s. And I was in my bed. I was like, if I was 80 right now, would I have lived the life worth living? Right. That gave me sobriety. It felt like I woke up in my life and I was like, fuck, I need to do something, because death is something that can come at any time. And I think that gave me the courage to pursue things, like to what is it called? Go down the beaten path, you know, and at least try and see where things end up.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into painting and all the other stuff. So yeah, I was just having a sober thought about life and death.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. On this show, Nene, we take seriously what it means to create on the continent. And we're speaking to someone who has continental resonance.
Thank you.
Take us through what it has meant for you to be South African in other parts of the continent. Have you felt the weight, whatever that weight is, good or bad, manifest when in practice in different continents, and how does that look like?
Unfortunately, I haven't, because I feel like culturally, as South Africans, we have privilege. I think our talents musically, with fashion, with art, gives us a privilege when we go into other countries. Other countries really love our creative talent. So when you enter those spaces, you're really respected for the things that you contribute. I think if I went into other countries from a different industry, I would have felt the weight of being in those spaces.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. But with creativity, we are really respected as South Africans when it comes to our creative talent, especially if you take it seriously and you're professional. But I think if maybe I was in politics or if I was, I don't know, other industries, I would have gotten a different reception because I would have been very close to very sensitive issues. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. But yeah, South Africans are very respected when it comes to creative output.
It's so interesting because it's as if you are given a dignitary passport, if you will.
Yeah.
If you are going into these in other countries, I mean.
Yeah.
I was speaking to David Adeleke. He's a Nigerian creative. He has this incredible platform called The Communique, where it's conversations on the continent about the creative sector. Lovely newsletter, really poignant ideas of the creative sector. And he was recently here last week, thanks to TikTok. They had a whole conversation series going. And I had a conversation with him afterwards. I'm just like, and I was so embarrassed. I was just like, how has it been in South Africa? You know, knowing the socio-political backdrop that affects how people are received here. I'm always so curious how then people are received in other parts of the continent. And you are saying that because of our creativity, the violence, the stereotypes, the biases that would befall another person who's not a creative but South African don't befall you. So being a creative on the continent is a privilege as South Africa.
Yeah. Like, look at how our music unites people, you know. And it's not just music. It's just that music is the loudest medium. But most of our mediums bring people together and they create great memories. And I think that's where the privilege comes from. So it's very unfortunate that we live in a country where like a lot of people are not really nice to people who have come from Nigeria or these spaces. And it is a privilege, honestly, when you go to these spaces and they welcome you so warmly.
Yeah.
But they do. And, you know, a part of you kind of like recoils a little bit because you're like, I don't deserve this. But also a part of you is like, I worked hard to get here.
Sure.
So it's it's a very weird space to be in. But I'm sure people in other industries might have a different answer than I do.
Yeah. Do tell us the experience of creating in South Africa versus creating in Nigeria. You were in Lagos. How was that? Was there a visceral difference in environments where you're just like, hey, I'm creating from a different place here?
I mean, Lagos is very different, like vibrant, you know, intense. But it's also intense because it's a different environment. And I feel like every land has its own mood. And that one is very intense, very loud, very heavy, right? But not in a negative way. Just culturally, there's just a lot going on. But I feel like if you go to any country, because I've created work also in Finland and I've created work in multiple spaces. It's just about having an intention.
Yeah.
And you're there to do a job. So if you have a specific intention, you kind of block the noise out because you don't want to be that person who gets to a country and then you don't get the job done.
Yeah.
It's kind of like finding that balance. But I think for me, the intention just masks a lot. Because I want to respect the people who invite me to go there. And I also want to respect my own integrity and just to give a good job. But yeah, it's an intense space, but I wasn't there for too long, unfortunately. But I'm planning to. I want to go back.
Very interested in the idea of, you know, how environments affect creators and how they create. A good friend of mine is just like, I cannot wait for you, Matabo, to leave South Africa. You create from a different place. She was saying that there are less worries that you have. Like there is a social political weight that you don't realize that you carry until you are not in the country.
Like you take a walk at night and you're like, damn.
What does that even mean? And how does that even affect then your creativity? How does that, because there's no bar, the bar to fear is all the smaller, right? And how does that translate maybe in your work consciously or unconsciously?
You know, I remember I was in London and I wanted to take an Uber to go from one point to the other. And when I read the kilometers, it was like 3 kilometers. And when I saw the price, I was like, I could actually walk because I saw everybody walking. But when I'm in Joburg, I could take an Uber that is like 3 kilometers long. And then I started walking and I just saw how people were so free to walk. I just realized that walking is a privilege. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it made me really focus on what freedom means, because I feel like in a lot of spaces, even though you might feel free, you're actually not, because what do you mean I can't walk 3 kilometers outside of my own house? That's crazy, you know? And it's also sad, but also wonderful to be in that space where you can now take walks at night. I remember after taking that 3 kilometer walk, I got to wherever I wanted to get to and I got out and I was like, I'm going to fucking walk this entire trip.
You just walking?
I'm just going to keep on walking because I know when I get home, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Sure.
So I think that's why for me, freedom and confidence. There's such very important themes because I think they unveil certain parts of yourself. They kind of unveil like a childlikeness. Like you welcome yourself to play. You invite yourself to explore and to be curious. It's so important. And you know, that energy, if you come back from another country, that energy sits with you for a while. Yeah. It doesn't leave you immediately after you land back. So yeah, then you just dive into your work and try to squeeze as much as that feeling as possible to create work that mirrors that energy, you know, just to remind yourself and to remind others. Hopefully when they see that work, they kind of get a sense of that as well. You know? Yeah.
Freedom is such an important theme for you when we read your work and when we engage your interviews and your thinking. Why? What happened? What was the thing about freedom for you?
I think growing up in a very Christian household, I didn't feel free. You know, I feel like I only found my personality late in my 20s because of that lifestyle. Because, well, I can't speak for other people, but in my house, you weren't allowed to watch certain programs. You were not allowed to listen to certain songs. You know, as a girl, you were not allowed to go anywhere. You know, so just finding my taste was very important in my development as an adult. And I think that once I stepped outside of the house and I tasted what freedom felt like, it felt like a new world was open to me. And it led to a lot of successes. And I owe a lot of my blessings to finding that sense of freedom. I owe my creative output to that, my entrepreneurial output to that, my confidence to that, my sense of style to that. It's everything. And but I'm also, when I look back, I'm very grateful for that environment because I feel like that's the reason why I'm very optimistic. And I feel like if I put my mind to something, I can do anything. Like, I feel like I have no fear because of that environment, you know? So yeah, freedom is very important. And I feel like a lot of people might not really take advantage of the freedoms that they really have. We have a lot.
Yeah. And also thinking about freedom, though, in a environment, when we think of the industrial complex of visual arts, when we think about the value chain of visual arts in South Africa in particular, there have been robust conversations around what work gets put out, what work gets commissioned, what work becomes commercial. And I mean, this is my personal opinion. More often than not, you find that when the protagonist or the muse is a woman, a black woman at that kind of work sells and people are trying to replicate the theme for consumerist interest, not genuine vibes. It's not giving genuine. It's giving, oh, that's where the bag is at. This where the black woman, na. And also because institutionally, it's so entirely, it feels small. Like, I'm just a consumer of art, right? It doesn't feel like in and of the visual art space that there is space to explore. It's like there is a kind of pageantry that needs to happen in a particular pool of people who either say yes or no, and that determines your whole career. That's crazy to me. I mean, we understand the constraints of the creative industry as a whole, but like, the way visual art moves is a bit, I get nervous and I'm not even a practitioner. How have you applied this tenet of freedom in you being an artist in South Africa, in you being an artist in Africa? Girl.
I'm finally free now.
Okay.
I feel like when I entered the industry, I wasn't free because I didn't have the money to study fine art, right? So I kind of like hustled my way into the industry and applied my entrepreneurial hat to open doors for me.
Okay. So no formal educational background.
I was in Viz for like a month and I saw how much it cost. I was like, yeah.
Juices.
I can't do this. I can't afford this. I can't afford this. But yeah, kudos to the people who can afford to go, but I couldn't afford to go. But I still wanted to be an artist and I hustled my way in. And I thought that art or the art industry was going to be the most understanding industry.
The most accommodating.
The most, experimental, most curious. I mean, we have people who are like that, but there are certain rules, unspoken rules to the game of art that I realized that if you clock them, you use them, you're going to be very successful. The one with female bodies, it's something that it's a discourse between female creators and female artists because everywhere you turn, you see a female body being painted by people who are not female. And sometimes I feel like we are robbed from so many stories and so many experiences because people choose the fastest way to get money. And I feel that because certain conversations are not being had, we are robbed of understanding different perspectives, especially with life experience. Because I feel like art is something that is a window into understanding specific life experiences, especially visual art. It's a great medium where you can understand somebody's perspective of growing up in a township in a parte. You can understand how, being a Black woman, you can understand so many different perspectives, but there's certain subsets of conversations that I feel like we're robbed of because maybe they're not commercially viable or people are scared or people think they're not going to be cool on Instagram if they don't talk about certain things. So art is vulnerable, but I feel like there's a layer of vulnerability that's not being tapped into. Because maybe I'm not exposed to those artists.
Sure.
I don't know, but yeah, there's certain dialogues I'd really love to see, honestly.
No, same. And I think with this broad stroking around Black female bodies, it takes away from people who are actually interpreting women from a place of authenticity. And no one has the metric of authenticity, but we can take or make educated guesses when looking at how particular works are being turned and particular themes are being turned. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I know Black women they got it, but I'm kind of interested in other themes as well, bro.
Yeah. And also when I'm a deep thinker. So there is a part of the art community that's very like brand aligned where you keep things superficial. And I get that, right? Because you kind of need, you can't be a deep thinker all the time. You have a little bit of fun sometimes. But there are fine art, especially when I learned it in grade 12.
Sure.
We had to write 3-hour essays. Imagine writing a 3-hour essays on one artwork. Sometimes I look at mine as well. I'm like, can I write a 3-hour essay on my own artwork? And especially people who paint women, and I look at the landscape of what women are having conversations about, I don't see it reflected in your work.
Sure. Ooh. And that's something.
Because there's so many conversations around women that are happening right now from the perspective of men, from the perspective of women, people choosing not to have children, people choosing to have children, independent women, 50-50. There's so many juicy conversations that are happening in society right now. And I don't see it in the artwork. And I haven't been creating art for a while. I've taken a break, but that's why right now, even my art right now, the women are fully covered. They're boss babes, smoking cigars, being like kingpins. I'm drawing women from that perspective right now because I'm tired of seeing naked bodies of women like we've been seeing them since the Renaissance period. So yeah, just that I haven't been in the studio for a while because I've been focusing on other things, but I would love to see artwork from an artist perspective about 50-50 and being a provider and being submissive.
Yeah.
I would love to see that shit. But
yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. The most dichotomous of realities, I guess, for me as a woman in South Africa is the idea that women are told that they're gold diggers. But when you look at the stats, 65% of all households are led by women. And these are stats that don't necessarily highlight men who are present in the household, but don't participate in the culture of domestic life, right? We are also looking at this surge, and especially as a woman from the Eastern Cape, it is so ordinary, it's so usual to hear of men who live with the matriarch of the family and just waiting for the matriarch to die because it is culturally set that, you know, they will be next in line as a result of their masculinity. And their sisters are most likely going to get married and change their surnames. We're just waiting for you to die so we can inherit, you know what I mean? The household. So there's what you're saying. There are so many sub-themes. I think the cry is not necessarily to stop talking about women. We're not talking about the superficial erasure. We're not going to the other side of the spectrum here, but we are calling for a thing that we have been calling for since the dawn of time, which is look at us from a place of depth.
Yeah.
Engage us, not our bodies, engage us as a people. And also, Nene, you mentioned that you are no longer you've taken a sabbatical and you are looking at other businesses. And I'm really interested around the business of creativity, with particularity of moving from creating for impact to creating for income. Okay. So Unene just woke up at Houghton. Damn, am I going to die like this? I want to be an artist. Goes to Wits. Damn, can't afford this. Let me hustle my way around. How did you navigate you exploring your creativity in the context of a business framing?
Well, I saw myself as, I don't know if this is cringe to say, but I saw myself as a service provider.
Absolutely not.
Because I understood that I have a service and a skill, and then I need to give it to people at a great quality, you know, and be professional. And then if I do that enough times, I'm going to earn income. So my positioning was that I have to put myself out there, because I started with Facebook when I was still on Facebook. And then I moved to Instagram. And then when I had maybe 900 followers on Instagram, the South African Mint contacted me, and then I designed coins. And then I kept putting myself out there, even though it was a little bit messy, but I kept putting myself out there, and then it started to attract a couple of opportunities. And then I genuinely, because I didn't have a formalized art background, I just understood business. And business is about customer service, you know, being professional, communicating right, having a quality service, giving people a great experience. That's all I did. And then I just did it over a period of time. And then, you know, I started working with Black Coffee, going to Spain, going to London, exhibiting in New York. That's all I did. It's really not that complicated.
It's not complicated, but it's quite contrarian to what we have been taught. I went through the formal education system to get my drama and performance degree and my sociology degree. And listening to you, you're just like, oh yeah, I just did this a few times and it was tried and true. I could replicate this and sell it, and that's that. That's the story. And with institutions of higher learning, I think perhaps there's a level of preciousness that gets in the way of us actually exploring the business of what it is that we're going to do. So by preciousness, I mean I'm really focused about, and in the drama context, I'm really focused about, you know, my breathing, right? And who's written this work, and, you know, what's the arc of the character, and all the important components that make the work. We are flipping and exploring them 1,000 ways, as opposed to also giving time to step back and actually see the product for what it is. Because we're not going to sit here and say that we are creating work for cerebral purposes. We want to be able to monetize as well. But you saying that you have no background, you have no touch point. Zana, you have no touch point. You were just looking at this from a financial point of view, if I'm going to leave this job that is giving me rack, I need to be able to, compensate for what I've put down in order to do this.
I mean, it's a formula that I've seen that has worked. And I was like, why can't I apply this in the creative space? Why is the creative space so different? It's the same thing. Like yes, you have you have a different way of giving a service. You have a different way of displaying your skill. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to compensate you because you are a human being who wants to live a dignified life. You want to pay rent. You want to pay for lights. You want to, be able to transport yourself. So it's the same formula. It's just that it's in a different industry. And that's all I had. Like, I didn't have the formalized education and the preciousness of it. I was just failing as I went.
Yeah. And you weren't taking things personally were you?
Yeah, I was, because I'm a perfectionist. Like, I have a high standard for myself. That's where it came from, not just it wasn't from the industry, it was from myself. But I did come across people who are like, oh, you're just an Instagram artist, because people went to Wits and they don't even know your story, but because they went to these formalized educations, they feel like, your output is not as important as their output. But I don't judge creativity. We're all vessels and we all output in different ways. How God, if you believe in God, how God gives you that creative inspiration is not how it's going to be given to me. So how dare you judge that? But I have come across that kind of criticism where people are like, you're just an Instagram. I was called an influencer at some point. Now I own it. I don't care. But it hurt my feelings because I was like, I have sleepless nights. I don't sleep. I think all fucking day. And you're telling me that I'm an influencer. Oh my God. But now I don't care that much. But yeah, there is that, those two schools of thought in the art world where there are Instagram social media artists and the purists, where the purists look down on these ones. And yeah, there is that tension.
I think also what's really shocking as well, because I don't want to lie, I held that perspective as well. Coming from Rhodes University, you think about the hours that you've spent at the institution, the kind of traumas that institutions in and of themselves, because of their colonial inception, how those afflicted you, and the various social, the various psychological, the various sacrifices that you've seen your parents go through in order to be a graduate, right? And it also leans into the bigger South African narrative of this idea that, when you go to university, your university is your way out. Yes, right? And then you fall into this and you do the things, you get your matric and you're able to even get a scholarship. Oh my word. Wow. And then someone with 900 followers gets called up. Do you understand? Do you understand? What tlhaloganya, babe? What tlhaloganya, babe? But then at the same time, though, what we're not critiquing, and especially as Black practitioners, is the idea that now the validity of our work needs to get the stamp of approval from these colonial institutions that we claim at times to decolonize. And I think part of the decolonial agenda is for us to rethink spaces of affirmation. Because essentially that's what it's a space of affirmation. It's affirming that you've done the thing, you can do the thing. Really, in essence, right? So what are other spaces of affirmation for creatives, considering the financial barriers to entry into higher education, can we create for ourselves? And also beyond some, you know what I mean? Because especially if you're going to look at art as a spiritual form, there are people who didn't necessarily need look at the koi in the sand, for instance, and the artwork that is created as a means of communication, right? Who affirmed? Community did.
Yeah.
It was not an institution, it was community, right? And I think having the likes of you, in many senses, really does trigger our internalized privileges and entitlement that has come with our proximity with historically white institutions.
Wow.
No, genuinely, I think you are necessary for many reasons where your output is concerned. But the personality, the figure, the person Unene is making us really think about the kind of externalized, entitlements that we have to various industries.
Because you invested time and energy into something and you expect a return on your investment. Valid.
Yeah.
I just feel like affirmation is something, one, that has to come from you, but also there is I don't know if many creatives suffer from this, but like we need to be realistic with how the world is structured. And it's something that I talk about a lot, especially in my TikTok. Like, I'm very creative. I feel like I have a good enough talent in my right brain as I do in my left brain.
Sure.
So I think we need to understand that if you're going to live in an economical system, you have to play the game of the system.
Sure.
It is not fair. It is not nice. And can I do something about it? Hell no. I'm not like Winnie Madikizela Mandela. You know what I mean? I ain't got that Mandela clout. You know, I can't do nothing about this. I can talk about it, but I have no idea like which door to knock at to make this unfair system crumble down.
Sure.
No idea.
Sure.
So, as somebody who didn't have the privileges of studying in a university to study what the thing that I love, I'm going to study the rules, the lay of the land, and I'm going to make sure that I understand how the lay of the land is. I'm going to play the game. You know, I'm somebody, there was a point where I was very addicted to playing video games, and I feel like more women should play video games because video games give you a very realistic view of life. That's how I got from video games. I don't know what other people get from video games, but you are put into a simulation. You're put into a world. You have a certain set of skills. You have a certain level. And then you're looking at your environment and you understand that I need to finish this game. What do I have with me? Oh, okay. But to get to the next point, I need to upskill. I need to level up. And as I level up, things are going to get progressively harder. But you need to keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying again. And then at some point, you're going to win the game. That's life. So that's the approach that I look at life. I understand that is not the approach that a lot of people look at life. And I've kind of made peace with the things that cannot be changed. I've made peace with them. I've made peace with it.
This is hectic. You getting skill sets without understanding the lay of the land. Like it's like you given a shovel, but you don't know how to work the land.
Or you don't look for a map so you can see where the sand is.
But go
to the concrete.
And then you get mad when you see someone who found the sand.
And because you're not, your shovel is hitting the concrete, you start to judge your own skill. And you say, I didn't have the necessary doing. You're not studying the lay of the land to find soft soil, to find the sand, so that you can apply your talent successfully and win. We all have skills, and this is what I believe. We all have skills. We're all good at something. It's just find your soft soil if you have a shovel. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we are focused on the wrong spots.
Nene, you say that it's important for us to find our soft soil as creatives, and we are looking at the Global Creative Summit happening on the 13th to the 15th of November. We are so excited to have you on as a panelist. So excited to have you on. What conversations are you in particular hoping that the summit drives, and what are you intending to come to the conversation with?
I'm excited about technology. I'm very obsessed with technology. I'm learning how to code right now. I'm building apps, and I think that we live in a very interesting time where creators might feel like technology might rob them of opportunity, but I think it just needs a different perspective with how to define this new wave of technologies and AI that are entering our sphere of operations. So I'm very excited about that. I think talking about technology, talking about the disruption of AI and how it can literally change your life. There's certain conversations right now that I'm listening to where they're saying that we live in a society where we can possibly have a $1 billion dollar business owned by one person because of the types of tools that are around. So yeah, it needs a specific kind of mindset, and maybe that's why I'm also like in app building world. I don't know, but yeah, I think creatives are the next wave of extremely successful people. They just need to apply their minds in a particular way. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and the Global Creative Summit is a summit that has been organized. Well, the inception of it comes from a creative's point of view, and it is for creatives. How important is it in your view, Nene, to really build environments as creatives for ourselves and not constantly looking for institutions or, state-driven engagements? How important is it for you, in your view?
I mean, it's only important if the environment is a optimistic one. That's the only time where I feel like an environment counts. An environment for environment's sake, for me, I'm not really interested. But if the environment is problem solving, it is positive, it has like a founder mentality where it wants to create solutions, it wants to be valuable in the environment that it's in, it wants to be ambitious. Yeah, I want to be in those kinds of circles, not just for community's sake and we just chat.
And we trauma bond, essentially.
No, I want people who are looking like 10 years ahead, 5 years ahead, and seeing how they can use what they have right now in order to adapt so that when 5 years, 10 years pass, they're ready. They're riding that wave and not being like, oh, the wave is consuming us,
Yeah. When you hear the tagline, Visa to the World, Passport to Possibility, what comes to mind?
I mean, there's an Amex design competition I won, so I kind of like... I kind of remember that. It's very interesting how the things that I am always involved in are around money. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. But I feel like it taps into the theme of freedom again. Money is freedom, and financial literacy is something that is very important. But that financial literacy that I'm learning now is that it needs to be coupled with your belief that your future is going to be a good one. You believe that your future is going to be a good one. No financial literacy is going to get you out of the hole that you're in, So, yeah, Visa to the World, yes, but also have faith that your future is one that is a great one so that, you can try and apply these skills and these coins in a way that makes your life prosperous. Yeah.
So coming together on the 13th to the 15th of November is in many senses an act of faith that our industry is worth investing in. And we are worth investing in each other and in systems that make us work effectively. Yeah? One last question. When we are coming together as a continent, I think it's very important to think about the systems that hold us. We can create the foray and the hype of Izani, we are here. But when we are together, when we do gather, how do we engage one another? On a racial level, on a gender level, sexual orientation, economic backgrounds, and all these systematic oppressions that will show themselves when we are together, right? The joy of gathering doesn't necessarily erase the challenges, systematic and very specific to Africa. What are you hoping if you had a magic wand and you're just like, these 10 continents, these 10 countries have gathered, of which there are 10 countries coming, clock there. They've gathered. What's one thing I wish for them on a systems level?
With the African continent, especially with technology, we've been able to skip steps because of our demographics and our population. For example, the West had cell phones, right? We skipped the part where the cell phone was bulky. Yeah, it was here, but it wasn't as famous as it was in the West. We went straight to the touch screen. We are able as Africans to skip steps in technological processes. And if we can be able to identify that step, like we're skipping a step right now, if you can identify that point, I think it's going to revolutionize our standing in the world because we have the largest group of young people and young people are the most energized, the most curious. If you apply them, if you place them in right spaces, they can literally change your country. And I think, if you believe in our young people and we empower them and we also give them hope, because I feel like, especially right now in our country, it can be very easy to lose faith because of how the government is doing whatever it's doing. But we need that faith back. We need that faith back. If we can give each other that faith back and look at the positive sides of the future, I think like Africa it's literally a powerhouse in the waiting. It's a powerhouse in the waiting.
Our closing statements. You need art. Finish the statement.
One sentence.
It could be a statement. It doesn't have to be a sentence.
Okay, you need art because art is a mirror and a reflection of your internal world. And it is something that can teach you about things that you may not be aware about. It can teach you how to be open-minded. It can teach you in a safe way to accept people that are different from you. And it can also bring you closer to your divine self.
And art needs you because?
Me. Art needs me because I am curious and I'm innovative and I'm a rule breaker and I'm not scared to stand out and to do the best that I possibly can.
Such a pleasure having a conversation with you, meeting the Aura Kid in the flesh. How do people get a hold of you?
Right now I'm very active on TikTok. So
yeah.
Follow me on TikTok, Nene Mahlangu, and same handle on Instagram if you're into art. Yeah, that's where I post my artwork. I don't post my artwork on TikTok.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
Same here.